Our chairman will be joining us in a few moments, and our founder is here too. Welcome to PM Foundation's webinar series of 2021. I'd like to welcome each and every one of you who've joined us, and especially extend a warm welcome to our speakers for the day, Dr. Ruha Shadab, Sadhiya Shiraj, and Sapna Salim, who will be conducting the interview. The PM Foundation was founded over 30 years ago by Dr. P. Muhammad Ali, who is our founder and has been at the helm of this institution that promotes excellence in education. We have a very unique program today because it's going to be led by 3 women. And there is an interesting story of association between these 3, which I will not dwell into at this point. Let me start by saying a very warm welcome to our entire audience, who I believe have joined in from the Middle East as well as different parts of India. And to welcome you all, I would like to first request our founder to share a few words to start the program, and then followed by which I hope our chairman will come in to speak and introduce the PM Foundation in some detail to you. Thank you.
Okay, so yes, Ms. Khadija, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is good to see that women power is in action. So Dr. Ruha Shadab, Sapna Salim, and Sadhiya Shiraj, three together, and their foundation. And I think one of them is from ISG. That is why I'm really proud of an ISG product. So let me welcome you and thank you for joining this seminar or taking that initiative in this PM Foundation webinar. We are all working for the same cause from the different ways and different direction. It is important that hunger is that we should get free. Once the hunger is freed, then it is education that gives the empowerment. So that empowerment of society, empowerment of and your women empowerment are all very, very important. And if the mother is educated and the house is educated, the community is educated. So it goes on. So, and we are all contributing for the upliftment of the society, community, and country. We are all Indians, and we are, from our way, we are working towards the development of the nation by focusing a section of the community for which we belongs to. And it is important. There is nothing wrong in that. And we all, if we don't take care of ourselves, who else will take care of us? So it is our prime responsibility, and I congratulate the Ruha Shadab taking this initiative, and the Sadhiya and Sapna coming together to conduct this webinar and the interview, or to enrich the other young aspirants, and inshallah it will be good. So I don't know. I'm not going to give a big lecture, but I just wanted to see that we are focused on this, on the straight path, and our end goal is to empower the community, educate, and through education, through sharing the knowledge, through sharing experiences. And especially also we wanted to see our people, our community are represented in all facets of life, whether it is social, economic, politics, or engineering, medicine, or artificial intelligence, or in any walks of life, we must have some representation, and then only we can stand alone, or stand we can that to on our feet and hold our head high. So this is important, and we have made good improvement, and I think this pandemic is also further helping you to conduct more and more webinars, and people can participate from wherever they are. That's also helping you. So make use of it, and I wish you a great day and great discussion, and get great and take home great benefits. All the very best. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Thank you very much. And I am happy to say that our chairman has also joined us. Mr. Mohammed Hanish, sir, has joined us, and I'd like to invite him to say a few words as the chairman of the PM Foundation. Thank you for joining us from your very busy schedule, but you've always made PM Foundation a priority, and we look forward to hearing from you.
First of all, thank you very much, and sorry for being late by 10 minutes. I keep running from one destination to another. So, and then Honorable Founder had actually made up for the whole thing by making a lovely speech over here. This is an interesting innovation, a kind of a path-breaking initiative by the PM Foundation. For the past 1.5 years, during this COVID pandemic, this has seen the most hectic activities in the schedules of PM Foundation. In fact, week after week, we have been covering every sector of activity after the other. This has been going on for quite some time. Lots of webinars, lots of sessions have been conducted. Thousands of students have taken part in the webinars, and the kind of presentations that have been made by career experts, people from different walks of life. A for agriculture to Z for zoology has been covered in this, particularly the whole 1.5 years. In fact, regarding the career options abroad, regarding the scholarships, and also regarding all those options inside the country, we have been trying to promote the dissemination of information as much as possible. Ultimately, it's all about the kind of attitude one can adopt in this world. What is the kind of attitude that we have to adopt in this world? That's a question which seeks an answer in a million different ways. My simple answer would be that we wish to be, or we have to be, as broad-minded as possible and as positive as possible. Everything else comes in the wake. And also, governments across the world, societies across the world have always emphasized on the 3 principles of access, equity, and quality in education. If access is provided, naturally enough, the questions pertaining to social equity and economic equity are addressed to a great degree. Then comes the question of not just the numbers. It becomes the question of how good are you and how different are you from the regular beaten track. Ever so many initiatives have taken place in the field of education, and from the springboard of education, you have had so many startups floating around, so many initiatives around the world. America to Japan, whatever be the caste, creed, color, or race, we as Indians have been able to put in a stamp of class, and in fact try to promote whatever we mean by the uniqueness of the Indian qualities. Now, along with it, there is also this question regarding how marginalized sections of the society, how the kind of underprivileged persons could really go beyond the confines or the restrictions of this underprivileged nature and then scale the heights of excellence. When you scale the heights of excellence, it's always this question about how involved are you in the process? What is the kind of passion that you can exhibit towards this process? And also the kind of out-of-the-box thinking that can be imparted not only to your studies, but also beyond the studies to the society and the world at large. That's something which happens only when there is a confluence of hard work, foresightedness, dedication, and a great deal of innovative thinking as well. These four elements unite to provide the best possible results, be it the Harvard University or the Indian universities. In this regard, therefore, today I look forward to this initiative, this webinar with a great deal of expectation. We always have hundreds and hundreds of students joining those seminars and webinars wherein foreign studies, university opportunities, or the kind of options regarding scholarships are highlighted. But today we have a difference. And that difference has certainly been brought forth as a result of the kind of extensive networking and the great deal of freshness of thought that has always been the hallmarks of our beloved trustee, Mrs. Khadija Mohammed Ali. So I thank Khadija profusely for bringing in together all these wonderfully talented ladies over here. All these persons who are so endowed with the kind of grace, intellect, and a great deal of potential to change the world, transform the world. There is a saying from the Welsh poet. It says, rage against the dying of the light, and don't fall gentle into that night. Burning midnight oil, lots of noble men and women putting their hearts and souls together so that a better world could be created. That better world can come about only if all of us unite at least on a mental plane to express solidarity with the extraordinary work, the kind of yeoman service that has been rendered by those remarkable men and women. I find that we have intimate associations for some of our participants, some of our guest speakers to the PM Foundation, and also to the founders' beloved Gubra School, Indian School Gubra, situated in Muscat. So that's something about which all of us will be very much proud about. I thank all of you for having taken part in this meeting. And let me just confess that because of reasons of modesty, Mr. Muhammad Ali Sahib always underplays his yeoman service to the society. This is a foundation that has been in existence since 1988. 33 years it's been into its service. 42,000 students have benefited financially and academically. And a huge sum has been donated just by one individual, one benefactor. That's something which is unique. Today, in this small state of Kerala, during the COVID pandemic, I can very clearly state with a justifiable sense of pride that amidst this pandemic, this is a foundation, just one of its kind in the state today, which has regular weekly sessions going on involving hundreds and hundreds of students. We won't falter in our cause. We would certainly strive forward and plow on and down, ultimately till the pot of gold is ours.
Yeah, Ramesh.
The pot
Ramesh?
of, not in a material sense, but in an intellectual sense. That's what we are aiming for. Let's strive to do that. All my ears and all my eyes for the next 2 hours or so are yours, madams, so that I could also glean something out of whatever you could present to this wonderful world and try to convert or transform this world into a better place to live in. Thank you very much. Inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Chairman Mohammed Hani Sahib, for the inspiring words and the words of encouragement. I am not going to speak for too long, but I did want to start this program by setting the context for this conversation to take place. First, let me start with Sapna Salim, because she is the person who connected us with Dr. Ruha Shadab and therefore with Sadhiya Shiraj by way of the work Ledby Foundation has done. Sapna Salim is actually an education consultant, a scholar. Her work in the field of education has impacted over 4,000 students, over 4,000 schools from the length of the country, all the way from Kashmir to Kerala. In particularly, her work with the PRISM project, where she was a consultant and worked with the MLA Dr. Pradeep Kumar in Calicut for the improvement of government schools is particularly noteworthy for the Kerala context, but she has been actively working in Hyderabad. And as I said, her work has impacted schools from literally Kashmir to Kerala. How did I get to meet Sapna? Through a PM fellow. And that's why I take a lot of pride in the PM Foundation's ability to create this network. PM fellow, PC Mohammed Ajmal, was the one who introduced me to Sapna, and I got to know about her work. And this is the power of the network and platforms that we have, which the chairman and both the founder was speaking about, is our common vision that connects people can do so much good in the world. And it's the alignment of such platforms, of such people coming together in these in these interactions that can help trigger tidal waves of change in the future. So Dr. Ruha Shadab was introduced to me, although we've had I've heard about Dr. Ruha Shadab. It was through Sapna that we got a formal introduction, and to hear about her phenomenal work is I'm going to let the talking be done by Dr. Ruha herself. And as the title suggests, she is a medical doctor and has gone on to do wonderful work in the field of higher education and creating the Ledby Foundation, which has set a new role model, set a new model for leadership and entrepreneurship. She was quite keen that we have one of the fellows of the first year of the foundation be with us. And coincidentally, who was that but Sadhiya Shiraj? And the wonderful coincidence there is Sadhiya is a student from Indian School Al Gubra in Oman, founded by Dr. P. Muhammad Ali. And it was a wonderful moment for us to realize this network, how this network has grown. And we're very proud to see a student from the GCC, from the Indian School Al Gubra, and the work that she does is going to be elaborated on again by Sapna and in this conversation. But I wanted to set this context to say that we are extremely proud of these three women who are here, and it's an honor to have you be amongst us, to speak to us and share your experiences, because we are at a time where there is the world is experiencing tremendous change. We are witnessing a new paradigm for leadership and entrepreneurship, and it is an immense moment of pride to see women such as yourselves at the forefront of this. So a warm welcome to the three of you. And now I'm going to hand it over to Sapna to take over the interview and introduce our speakers in detail to you. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Firstly, thank you, Khadija ma'am. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Founder Dr. P. Muhammad Ali, for this opportunity, for bringing all of us together through PM Foundation's webinar series. I want to take a moment to, I understand that everybody here has spoken about the work that PM Foundation does, but as somebody from the outside who has watched the work that the foundation does, I have to reiterate and really appreciate the founders and everybody who's working behind this, that they have taken it upon them that not just students are supported through academic and financial support, but they make a space where every child gets the opportunity to have the exposure, to have the network, and to really witness role models in the space so that they have somebody to look up to and really work in a direction that is suitable for them. So starting off with a lot of gratitude to PM Foundation and every member who's working on this. Thank you, Khadija ma'am, for that wonderful introduction. It is my pleasure to have connected you with Dr. Ruha Shadab, as well as to be part of this conversation. I'm always interested in having these conversations where you can learn from each other, and this is something that I'm really excited and looking forward to. So as part of the PM Foundation webinar series, like I said, when we're looking at role models, we're also looking at not just the work that they do, but their stories. How did they get where they are? And I believe for each of us, it is helpful that we look at someone else's story and capture from that what we can and implement that in our lives, take a few tips and tricks and see how we can really use that knowledge and set up a path to a better place professionally or personally. So I'm really excited that we're here. Before we start the conversation, I just want to let all of our audience members know that we are hoping to make this interactive. And by that, we will have a Q&A at the end of the conversation that we have with Ruha and Sadhiya. And I encourage that you use the chat option to reach me or any of the co-hosts with your questions. And if you think, since most of our audiences from Kerala, if anybody is more comfortable with Malayalam, please write to us in Malayalam as well. We just want your more participation so that not only do I get to ask these questions to Ruha, but each of you can do as well. So with that said, and starting off with the amazing tone that the founder and chairman set to begin this conversation with. One, the founder talked to us about the importance of women and women's education, about how educating a single woman can lead to educating the entire community and making the world a better place. I think that is an absolutely befitting introduction to this conversation. So Ruha is somebody who's doing that right now, not just through where she is, but also by empowering more women to do that. I want to introduce Ruha first by telling that she is the founder of Ledby Foundation. Ledby Foundation is the first incubator for Indian Muslim women, which was started off at Harvard University. Ruha is a medical doctor by profession. That is what she started her career with. But understanding as a doctor that there is larger issues in the society, systemic issues that she can and she must work on, she went on to work with the government of India at Niti Aayog. And from here, she realized that she will be able to take her work to a larger platform. And that is when she applied and was accepted to the Harvard University to really expand her horizon and learn more through her master's in public policy, which was a 2-year program where she was fully funded by Harvard University to do her education. Once she studied there, she started off the Ledby Foundation, an extremely unique and an extremely apt and well-timed organization that we need today in India. And I will let Ruha speak more about Ledby. But this is what Ruha has been doing, and not to forget that Ruha is the first Indian to have won the Women's Leadership Award at the Harvard Kennedy School. So without doubt, Ruha is one of the most promising young leaders in India today, and it is our absolute pleasure to have her here with us. So welcome, Ruha. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Sapna, for that introduction.
So Ruha, I want to start off the conversation by understanding you're a medical doctor, moved on to government, working in systemic issues, and then you move on to Harvard University, where you start the first leadership incubator for Indian Muslim women. Tell us about this shift and why this happened, and also tell us a little bit about the work that Ledby does and it aims to do.
Sure. First of all, Assalamu alaikum, and thank you to the PM Foundation, Khadija ma'am, the founder and chairperson, for creating this wonderful platform and the decades long of positive externalities and direct impact that you've created. It's also a delight to hear how Sadhiya, who is from the alum batch of Ledby, has benefited so much from the work done by your entities. So Sapna, coming to your question, so that's a loaded question. It has multiple parts. So I'll start with the first part, which is about what looks like pivots in my journey, right? So from being a medical doctor to going to public health, public policy, and then social entrepreneurship. Now, although these might look like pivots, they didn't feel like pivots to me. And that's because the underlying goal behind all of these things were the same for me. The reason I wanted to become a doctor was to help people, to create social impact. And I happened to be raised in a community where my father was a doctor, all the uncle aunties were doctors. So that's what I saw. And I recognized that, okay, this seems like a really cool profession to be able to create meaningful change in people's lives. And when I started my MBBS, I got exposed to the inequities in our health systems and wondered, is it possible that instead of really putting a band-aid on people? Can we create changes in systems that makes people healthier, gives them overall better access to healthcare? So my move from clinical medicine to public health was motivated only by the scale of social impact. And similarly from that to public policy, and then eventually social entrepreneurship. So they don't necessarily seem like pivots. They are all fueled by the same underlying mission to be able to create the largest possible social impact that I can in my limited capacity. And that's what's kept me going. Happy to deep dive into any of that.
Great. Ruha, it would be great if you can talk to our audience more about Ledby itself, the reasons behind you started off the organization and what the vision of the organization is and what is it doing at present.
All right. So I can start with a little bit of the origin story. The real origin story goes back 30 years, but I'll go back 3 years. So when I was applying to Harvard University for my master's in public policy, this was in 2017. 2017, 2018. I had to write an essay and I had to write or get 3 letters of recommendation written. Now, while I was writing my essay, there were a couple of things playing on my mind. One thing that had been with me through my 2.5 decades on this planet was the representation of Muslims in the rooms that I was in. And the reason this was really stark was actually, I was born and raised in Saudi Arabia. So when I moved from Saudi to India, the move from being a part of the religious majority to religious minority was very stark. And my instinctual reaction after coming to India was actually, I was reflecting on my friends from outside of the Muslim community. So my Hindu friends in Saudi. And I thought about how I had never seen Diwali or Holi celebrated over there. And I felt really, really bad for my friends who spent their childhood in Saudi without being able to celebrate their festivals. But then growing up in a middle-class suburb near Delhi, where I was often the only Muslim, not even Muslim girl in the tuition I went to or in the school I went to, I quickly could feel what my friends probably felt in Saudi, right? Eid would come and go, people wouldn't know about it. Ramzan would be happening and people wouldn't understand how, our routine changes during that month. So that dissonance was something that was weighing on me and made me always very aware. I would always do like a calculation when I would enter a room or an office, just for fun, that what is the representation of women here? What is the representation of Muslims and Muslim women? So needless to say, the number was very abysmal in the school I went to, in the college that I went to. But there was one place where Muslim women I saw overrepresented. And that was when I was working as a doctor in a government hospital in Delhi. And one of the reasons that was happening was we were providing free tertiary healthcare services to people who are mostly urban locality people with low incomes. And that is where a lot of Muslims are congregated in our country, generally speaking. So I could see more Muslim women come to our hospitals, and I started thinking about access to healthcare for them. And this goes back to what the leadership of PM Foundation also spoke earlier today, that you first take care of hunger, then education. So you keep building up that Maslow's hierarchy, right? So I was wondering, okay, we get access to healthcare for Indian Muslim women. That's really important. And that's what I put in my essay to Harvard. And then I went to do the other chunk of application work, which is getting 3 letters of recommendation. Obviously, whoever wrote those letters of recommendation did a good enough job and I got admitted. And then after admission, I was thinking about, okay, access to healthcare for Indian Muslim women is what I want to do. But I got 3 letters of recommendation written, and they were all written by men, and hence no Muslim women. And that got me thinking that, all right, even if we provide healthcare access, what kind of lives, what kind of autonomy, what kind of agency, what kind of independence, what kind of decision-making power are we giving? And when I was hearing again the leadership of PM Foundation speak, the words were resonating so much. For instance, I really like this one line that was said. It was something about, it's about going from being disempowered to achieving excellence. And it's not just anymore about primary education. It's not just about hunger. We need to be achieving absolute apex level excellence in our community. And how do we do that? And that's what I was thinking about. And that was essentially the germination of Ledby, which is India has been taking strides. We are working on complementing and building on the work that PM Foundation has done for decades, right? And now thinking, okay, people who've been able to get primary education, go to college, how do we make sure now they reach the absolute apex of whichever ladder that they want to climb? And that's the goal of Ledby.
Ruha, that is very interesting. And I think just understanding that it's not just enough to get the basics done anymore. It's about trying to excel and not expect anything but the best, really, for the community, for individuals, for every individual in the country. And the work that you do through Ledby is also about nation building. It is not just about working with specific people, but it's also about bringing India forward through the work that you do. So can you tell us a little bit about the programming of Ledby, the design of the program, and how do you see that helping us get from probably disempowered to achieving excellence? What does that look like to you?
Sure. So the programming that we run at Ledby, we have 2 programs actually now. The first program, or a flagship program, is the fellowship, which is what Sadhiya was a part of. And the fellowship selects 20 to 30 high potential Indian Muslim women and puts them through a very rigorous, intensive, co-curricular 4-month fellowship program. The second is a lighter touch, but more extensive program called the Accelerator program that runs for 12 months. And I also want to flag that applications for that are exclusively open right now only for the PM Foundation. Our deadline was last week, but we've extended it for PM Foundation. We'll put up more details. So anyone who matches the eligibility criteria for the Accelerator program, go ahead and fill this 5-minute application form. The Accelerator program also has similar programming like the fellowship, which I'll tell you in detail, but it's just lighter touch because you meet once a month, and it's starting in August. Now, overall, what does the programming look like? There are 3 arms for the programming, and I'm talking about this year. So it's modified on what Sadhiya's cohort went through, and we also called Sadhiya's cohort co-creators. So we used a lot of their feedback to improve upon and iterate. So the 3 arms are, you have professional development workshops, which are along the themes of leadership that are taught at the university that I had gone to. So there's negotiations, there's growth mindset, there's storytelling. What's really interesting and what makes this unique from other leadership programs is that we actually create context and content that is customized for the lived experience of Indian Muslim women. For example, the negotiations training that happens through Harvard's coaches at Ledby is actually done using case studies with Indian Muslim women as protagonists. So even the examples that you're reading, you can actually relate to it and see yourself applying those principles much more easily. The second thing that we do is we have executive coaches now. So we have over 24 executive coaches that host multiple one-on-one sessions with our fellows. And the idea over there is to help these fellows, these young women, to find the vocabulary to be able to describe and define themselves much better. And this not just helps you with insight, it helps you with interview prep, it helps you with understanding how you're reacting in the workplace. All of this you usually do learn by yourself. Like I learned this at the end of my 20s, and our goal is to be able to expedite this learning by 10 years by giving it to these women in their early 20s. And the third arm, so you have your workshops, your executive coaching. The third arm is our 360-degree advisory framework. And this is arguably my favorite part of the work that we do. So let's see, what do I have over here? So let's imagine if this is our fellow, okay? The center of our universe, everything that we do for this person. Now in the 360-degree advisory framework, what's happening is that this fellow, so this young college-going Indian Muslim woman, has access to over 100 senior women executives that she can reach out to hold office hours. The concept of office hours is that you get 30 or 60 minutes with a senior women executive, and you try to learn as much about their story as you possibly can. So to what you were saying, Sapna, right? Listening to other people's stories and being able to implement them in your own life, or adapting or learning from their principles. So from this pool of over 100, our fellows usually select 6 to 8 senior women executives that they have office hours with. So that's what we call just regular mentoring or down mentoring. This fellow also has to have a one-on-one with each of her co-fellows. So there's peer mentoring happening. And she also has to go back to her middle school or high school and find 2 young girls, one Muslim and one from outside of the community, to mentor. And the idea over here is threefold. You're paying it forward. You're also appreciating having somebody younger than you mentor you, which is really important because the work environment is changing so rapidly. You need somebody younger than you to tell you what's up. And the third is also changing narratives. The idea of a young Hindu girl looking up to a Muslim Didi as a role model is a way to change narratives as well, and also to bridge communities. So those are the three arms. We have our workshops, our executive coaching, and the 360-degree advisory framework at the foundation.
Ruha, when I think about what you've just shared, it's just like you said, you and I, probably when we were growing up and even till now, we've not had an opportunity like this. Once we've left college and we've moved on to a workspace, we probably left on our own to figure out a lot of these things. We're probably thinking like, am I yet an adult to do this on my own? Do I know who is there to really support me in this? And I think the work that Ledby is doing is also provide that helping hand to young Indian women to just equip them to get into that workspace. Right now, what you mentioned about your mentorship model as well, including somebody from another community as well. So I often hear you talking about a tribe as well as allies. And can you tell us why both of these are really important for anybody who's working in this space, or even any individual stepping into a workspace, to have these two on either of their sides to support them in the work that they do?
Oh, that's a good question. I've actually not talked about tribe and allies in the same sentence. So let's do that today. I think building a tribe is arguably the smartest thing you can do for yourself as you're growing up. So if you're a teenager or in your early 20s, finding a group of people who support you, encourage you, challenge you professionally and academically is the best investment that you can make. And this becomes more important as you grow up. So now it's been over 10 years. It's been a little too long since I've graduated from high school. And I have a group of people, mostly from my medical college and some people from outside of it, that you can go back to for multiple reasons. So these aren't only people who support you academically or who push you to do better. Even in moments, Sapna, of self-doubt, these are fantastic people to go back to. And they sometimes remind you of your worth that you yourself might forget. The other reason I find having a tribe really important is for the work that I do. So as a social entrepreneurship, it's a very, very challenging atmosphere to be in. It can often be lonely, especially if it's a single founder entity. So to have people who are also social entrepreneurs a part of your tribe, it again helps understand and discuss challenges and probably find solutions. We also help build a tribe within the foundation. So this is something that Sadhiya had experienced through the Dream Trust or Kitchen Cabinet exercise that we do. So there's a very structured way in which we actually put 4 to 5 young women together and help them ideate upon one of those young women's professional or academic challenges, kind of priming them on how tribes work. There's another term about tribes that I'd like to talk about, which explains this slightly better. It's called the balcony tribe. Bear with me, it's a little bit of a description. So think of a ballroom, or I think for the Indian context, what fits better is, do we remember those movie theaters which had balcony seats? So you had like the upper balcony seats and then like seats lower, and then there was the screen. Now forget about the movie, right? Let's just talk about the seating arrangement and how this balcony tribe works. So the idea is something like everybody's on the ground floor and doing their thing, dancing, talking, chilling. That's your life, basically. Ground floor is your life. All the actors of your life are on the ground floor, including you. You're going about it. There's a lot happening. Going to the balcony is a phrase that's used in a lot of leadership curriculum at Harvard also. And the idea is that every now and then, from this ground floor of your life, you should take a step up and go to the balcony so that you can have a zoomed out third person's view of what actually is happening in your life. Now, the idea of balcony tribe, as I'm sure all of you now understood, is to basically have a group of people who are on the balcony with you to help you basically reflect on what's happening. And this zoomed out view can bring so much clarity to the issues that you're having, the challenges that you're facing. So your balcony tribe basically is somebody whom you get to take a step back with, zoom out and reflect on your life. And mind you, this is all very structured. I have a balcony tribe that I reach out to every 2 months. Fantastic women, all of them are social entrepreneurs. We have, our group has me from India, a person from Philippines and from Netherlands, then one person from Ghana and one person from Kenya and somebody from New York. So it's the five of us, and we Zoom out every 2 months to be able to talk about all of this. And it's been really helpful to have this tribe of female social entrepreneurs. Coming to the allies part, allies, I think, really depend on what social issue you're trying to change or trying to tackle, and who is your core demography. Now, for Ledby, our success is only possible if every single Indian sees the merit in what we're doing. We need every single Indian to understand that an Indian Muslim woman achieving her full potential is not at all a zero-sum game. It is a win-win game for everyone in the country. And we at Ledby are not saying that Muslim women make up 8% of the population, so we want 8% of the pie or 8% of the seats, full stop. No, we are saying we want Indian Muslim women to be contributing to making that pie bigger. That is our goal. Every single Indian Muslim woman should be an Indian achieving their full potential. Now, to be able to do that, having allies is really important, because when you're also talking about inequities, what do we necessarily mean by inequities? Right? Somebody has more power than another group. And now your allies are probably going to be people who hold that power, who believe in your cause, and are willing to share that power with you to bridge that inequity. So allyship for Ledby is phenomenally important, and which is why that is something we also talk about.
That's very interesting, and I think it's so important to think about these things that we often forget while we're trying to work on our self-improvement. We don't think about the different sides of tribes or allies, and I think it's great that you're consciously talking about it and getting more people to also think in that line. So my next question is related to what you also mentioned when you talked about the tribes and the structure that you mentioned. None of this. So a lot of people might just be very privileged that it just happened that around them there is a strong community that's supporting them, be it through best friends, close friends, mentors. You've spoken about having mentors, but often that's not the case for the majority, right? Naturally, people probably haven't reached out to these mentors, or it just didn't form for them, and so they are lacking a huge support system that could have really helped them just lift up their professional or personal life. So I'm wondering what you could tell our audience, who are largely, we have high school students, we have college going students, we have youth who are in between that and even probably moving on to a career. So what would you suggest that they can do in terms of finding that, if not a tribe, but how do you really look out for those people whom you can leverage? So if I'm thinking about Ledby has over 100 advisors and residents. You've had multiple mentors supporting you through going to Harvard, and even now you talk about your balcony, the balcony tribe that you have. So what do you suggest that others who are not in your program, definitely men who cannot be in your program, but also other women who are not part of Ledby, to do in their everyday life, professional space, or in their educational space, to build this community for them? What can they do as a next step?
A fantastic question, Sapna. So I completely agree that there has been privilege, there has been luck that has played a big part in my journey. Two parts to that. So one is, I also believe that if you have the privilege of knowing, you do not have the luxury of not doing. And what I mean by that is that in India, it is a phenomenal place to be a part of the youth, because it's such a challenging environment, which means there is so much that we can do. And if you have even an iota of privilege, and mind you, everybody on this call right now has some privilege, because even having access to internet in India is a privilege. So whatever is your level of privilege, paying it forward, doing something about that is really important. We've thought a lot about what worked for us and what was this luck that helped us get to where we are. And a part of Ledby's thinking is that a lot of this luck, and what you're referring to, Sapna, right? Like just luck being surrounded by people who turned out to be your mentors. For me, two of those people are my brothers. Like I was literally born into a family where my best friends and advisors happen to be my brothers, right? But we also believe a lot of this luck can actually be bottled up and be given to communities that need it, right? So we are doing that by creating a platform of all these role models that you can come and select and talk to. Now, to your question, what about people who maybe aren't a good fit for Ledby, or Ledby isn't a good fit for them? What can they do to reach out to people? There's a very, very simple answer to that. And in fact, I was told that as recently as when I was doing my master's. If you are a student, imagine that you have a free pass to have a conversation with anyone. You can reach out to any role model that you have and email them, provided your email shows due diligence, you've done your research, and you have a specific question. And if you reach out to somebody that you look up to with a very detailed ask, there is a very high likelihood that you will hear back from them. And that has worked for me. There was a time when I had only 100 connections on LinkedIn. There was a time where I didn't have the word doctor behind my name. There was a time when I wasn't a master's graduate from Harvard, but my network was still building because I would almost shamelessly reach out to people that I thought were cool. I remember once reaching out to the Southeast Asia regional office of the WHO. Their head, her name is Dr. Poonam Khetrapal. She's an IAS officer. She didn't reply, but her office replied. And for me, that was big enough. I was like, yes, they acknowledged my email. And I would keep taking these nuggets as motivation and kept myself going. Similarly, I got connected to right now who is the chief scientist of the WHO, Dr. Soumya Swaminathan. And she was somebody that I looked up to during my medical school days. For 10 years, I was trying to get in touch with her. The first couple of years, I got no reply. And then when I went to my university in Harvard, I followed up through my Harvard email ID and got a reply, and then landed up meeting her in Geneva in 2019, right before COVID happened. So I understand where she's coming from, right? Like right now, she is leading the work on COVID distribution globally. So I understand her not having the time to have replied, or maybe she didn't even see my emails early on. But I stayed with it. I respected her time. I understood where she was coming from. But I stuck with it, and then eventually managed to meet this woman who is arguably one of the coolest females that I know, like coolest person I know. Coolest person I know, and also then a fantastic role model. So just sticking through, reaching out to people will open up doors, and if not opportunities, I just take it for inspiration. But you never know how dots connect. I've been able to reach out to people on LinkedIn and been able to get small consulting projects back when I was in medical school. So those open, and just writing these simple emails can help. So I'd highly encourage to leverage the fact that you're a student and reach out to people. You'd be surprised at how many people want to pay it forward and share their insights with you.
Thank you for sharing, Ruha. I think, and I'm also one of those shameless people who reached out to you through LinkedIn because your work truly inspired me. And I just knew that I had to.
That's how we met.
Yes. I saw about your work, I read, and I just wrote to you, and you were kind enough to respond. And I think that is something, coming back to what Khadija ma'am also mentioned about just the power of networks and just being proactive to build that field. So to the audience, to the young students and those who are working right now, my recommendation, as Ruha said, is just keep using LinkedIn. And I think that's just a very powerful tool today. And if you write to 20 people, maybe 10 might respond, but that is a good place to start. So thank you so much, Ruha. Speaking about being proactive, I want to come to my next guest, Sadhiya Shiraj, who is also here through Ledby, but then it's an amazing coincidence that we figured out Sadhiya goes long way back through a PM Foundation connection as well. So Sadhiya Shiraj is an alumna of Indian School of Algebra, which is also founded by Dr. P. Muhammad Ali, who started the school and the foundation with the same mission, that not just have excellent education, but provide an education with purpose, an education that serves the community, and an education that lets young people look up to more inspiring people and aspire to do better. So Sadhiya is here, and I'm sure for the foundation and for the founder. This is just full circle, seeing the benefits of what the school has done for somebody like Sadhiya. Sadhiya, thank you for joining us here. And firstly, I want you to just say a few words to, I'm sure there are a few people from Indian School Algo Browse joining us. So what would you like to tell them? And welcome to this conversation, Sadhiya.
Good morning, Sapna. Firstly, I would like to thank Madam Khadija Muhammad Ali, my honorable founder of the school, Dr. P. Muhammad Ali, Muhammad Hanish sir, and I also see in the guest list, I have my principal over here as one of the listeners, Papri Ghosh Madam, and to Ruha Shadab. I am extremely happy, extremely delighted, and I mean, I really can't express how happy I am right now to be on this platform. Firstly, to connect with you, to connect with PM Foundation via Ledby, that has been a tremendous opportunity. But to get back onto this platform with my school, my alma mater supporting me and having them as today's audience, I really can't put it into words, how happy I am today. So thank you very much, all of you, for attending this program. And I'm happy to, answer to all the remaining questions that Sapna has. And I'm really happy right now.
Yes, we are. And we can see the excitement that you have right now. And we're just joyful as well that you could join us. Sadhiya, I want to start off understanding more about your experience and someone at the receiving end of a fellowship program like that of Ledby. We've heard from the founder on her vision and why she started this, but we also want to understand from you as to how experience has helped you. What is it that you could remember as few key takeaways from this, and just tell us about the experience of it so that more people, I understand that even the accelerator program that's coming up will have few elements of what the fellowship that you've gone through has, and it definitely comes with the same underlying message and goals for empowerment. So tell us more about your experience as a fellow from the first cohort, a co-creator of the Ledby Fellowship.
Sure, Sapna. So when I joined Ledby, I'll take you back to the backdrop as to when I applied for the Ledby application process. It was last year, and I had just completed my first year of my Master's in Business Administration at IIM Lucknow. So it was during my summer break when I had come across this opportunity. How I came across this opportunity is another story to itself. It was because I had reached out to another mentor, who keeps sharing me such wonderful opportunities. When I went on to apply for this program, Ledby itself was in its nascent stage of growth. And there weren't many flyers or posters, and the website also was very new, and there was very little information that we had to understand as to what this program could offer and what is it that we are actually applying to. But it seemed very new, innovative, and the first of its kind in India. And I definitely wanted to be a part of it. And I went on to apply for the program. And it was after my first round of interview with Ruha Shadab, I understood, what the leader and, what the management has a vision for the Ledby. And understanding that, I really wanted to be a part of the cohort. I was still unaware of the team that I was going to join. And I was also not aware of the, growth opportunities that it was going to offer to us. Because as I was mentioning, it was a very new thing for all of us. When I joined, we were a pool of 24 people, 24 highly brilliant, high potential women from all across the country. Okay, you had people from Kashmir, from Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Delhi. It was beautiful. So the experience we had for 4 months to connect with these 24 people were excellent. Now, talking about the program, Ruha has already explained, as to what we had gone through it. But after 4 months, let me tell you this, Sapna, we had an engagement of just 4 months with Ledby. But after the Ledby program, I can say that I have, led multiple projects just after that 4 months. And that is because of the skill sets and the leadership qualities that I got just after the 4 months. So that is a power of a powerful cohort community when you become a part of it. You have the people guiding you correctly. You have the right skill sets being imbibed into you. You have the right people that you can connect to. You know that these are the project opportunities that you have to take part. That so much of clarity you get after being part of this particular program is one of the biggest plus points that I got, after being part of Ledby. And now after 1 year, after being an alum of Ledby, if there is something important that's happening to me, the first person I call up to is Ruha, and I tell her, okay, Ruha, I have reached this phase of my life and I have to congratulate you for mentoring me, because that is the power of a community or a cohort who's supporting you in the right way, in the right direction. So if there is further questions about how it helped, I can help you with that.
Sure. Sadhiya, before I ask you my next question, I have to first apologize. I was too excited. I forgot to completely introduce you, and I talked about your experience as an ISB alumna. So Sadhiya Shiraj reminds me about someone who is so proactive that she is not just happy with status quo. She tries to find more and more opportunities for herself. Sadhiya is an alumna of ISB Indian School, Al Gubra. She has then gone on to do her engineering from National Institute of Technology, Calicut, where she definitely led a lot of organizations and committees and clubs, which all show to me that she's been proactive in finding these leadership opportunities for herself. From National Institute of Technology, she moved on to do an MBA from the Indian Institute of Management, Lucknow. And today, Sadhiya is a financial analyst at Amazon, India. So definitely someone who's worked really hard, and who's now, from the conversations that I've had from Sadhiya, I realize that she's also, after an experience like the Ledby Fellowship, she's looking for opportunities to support others as well, which is why she was so keen and very kind enough to join us in this conversation. Sadhiya, you told us briefly about being a Ledby Fellow. If I were to ask you about specific 2 skills that you have gained from this opportunity, and could you tell us how it has also helped you in your professional or personal life as well? So just helping our audience understand that when you're looking at professional or personal development, it is not simply by saying the word growth, but very consciously thinking about what are you targeting and how do you get from where you are to where you want to in specific skills.
Okay, Sapna. So this also I'll take a little back, because when I was in school, to be a leader was very natural for me. I was raised in a very progressive, in a very equal environment. The school that I was studied was highly secular. I mean, it's very different from the childhood which Ruha had shared with us. I was also born, brought up and raised in Middle East, and then I did all my further education from India. But from the place where I came, we never faced a biased environment. The school where I studied, you had Indians students, you had students not just from the Kerala community, you had students from Gujarat, you had students from Kashmir, Bengal. You celebrate all festivals, you sing songs from all the states. You are raised in a very Indian environment, and you don't face any of the social biases that you face when you start out your life individually. So that is the power of a security blanket which is provided to you by the school. And in that environment, I was able to excel very naturally. From being a class monitor to a school leader to a head girl, everything was natural. And this same progression as a leader went on when I did my bachelor's as well as my master's. So to be a leader came out very natural to me. It was easy for me to take on projects, to take initiatives, to get things work done, to help out people even before they had reached out to me. So that was natural. But going to Ledby, and after talking to 24 people, see, all 24 of us were high potential women, but few of us were natural leaders and few of us tend to be followers. But now tomorrow, when you go out and you work in the community, and you would you are expecting that this community should come forward, it's not possible for all the 24 of us to be leaders. Okay, so there would be few leaders, but there should be some leaders who are also letting others to become natural leaders or inspire them to be better followers. So that is one of the major skill sets that I got from Ledby. That for me, just to lead was not enough. I have to inspire 10 other women or anyone who's there out in the society to become leaders or better followers, so that they can take their vision of developing the society forward. So this skill set of imbibing my leadership after Ledby had increased tremendously, because I went on to lead 2 projects where I am mentoring more than 40 plus students. And now today I can tell that, in 2 or 3 years down the line, I can see them becoming future leaders. So that is the major skill set that I had taken from Ledby. The second skill set was what Ruha had rightly mentioned. Ledby focus on 3 important things: the power of storytelling, and to have a growth mindset. when earlier you are a leader and you would want to say get your work done, the most way of usually getting your work done is you come into a consensus, you have a discussion, and then together as a team you present your points and you get your work done. Now when you do this on an individual level, often for a person like me and for women from the Muslim community, it's not very easy for their decisions to get accepted from the society. And some people at a later stage in life tend to get rebellious or authoritative to get their work done, or get people listen to them so that they can get their whims and fancies accepted. But there is a way of storytelling or changing your narrative so that the people who's listening to you can accept and understand you much better. And I think that is something that is lacking in our community. It's not because people are not acceptive, it's because we are not narrating what we want in the right way that the people would accept it and listen to us. So that power of narrative, that power of storytelling combined with this growth mindset, created me to change the way that I have to deliver the stories. So today when I'm listening, I'm speaking to you, I have this intention that, there's something that I want you guys to understand from my speech. And I can, get that feedback very instantaneously, not just by Ruha and Sapna nodding to my expressions, but I know that, you're understanding me. So that is the power of narrative. That is the major skill set that I got from them. And it's very important for Indian Muslim women to have that, because if you have that power of narrative, you can deliver much better. You can deliver in the way that the people want to understand you. And you can also be sure that, 80% of your times what you are asking, you can actually receive that.
So you're talking about being able to firstly know what you are expecting, but also communicate it in the right way. And I think that's definitely an important skill. And I'm sure this is something that's helping you in your workspace as well. Sadhiya, this is a slight tangent, but for the benefit of the audience, if you could share a little bit about what you understand about growth mindset, because I think that's a very important thing for young people to know about. So if you could share what growth mindset means and how you see it play out in your life, or when is one time that you've used growth mindset? Even if you don't go into the detail, you can just share us what it means.
Okay. So the idea of growing, the idea of having a growth mindset is very different for different people. Some people would like to grow academically, get multiple degrees into their portfolio. Some people would want to grow economically. Some people would want to just grow in the family and be happy. So that idea of growth mindset is different for different people. But irrespective of what that, where you want to grow, there is always a strategy that you can follow so as to ensure that, you're constantly growing. And this is something what I have believed, or I have come to believe right now after so many years of education and experiences that I have got in my life. To begin with, when I was young, when I was in school and in my bachelor's, because I was very proactive and I had this fire inside me that I always want to lead, I always want to excel in everything I want to do. I used to attend and participate in every competitions, in every new opportunities, in every speech debate competitions that was out there, just because I just wanted to, outgrow, I just wanted to excel. But there was no clarity as to why I am going and participating in a debate competition, or, why I'm going and presenting a science project in front of people. It was just, I'm picking up opportunities, going and participating, end of story. But when I came to do masters, and when I understood that, there is a limit to which you can keep participating in everything and excel in everything, because of the reason that there are 1,000 other people who are better in the job that you do, and they are much more smarter and brighter. That realization of who you are and what others are and how better they are puts us in self-doubt. Okay, do I really have the power of growing further, or is this just me? And often some people don't have the courage to come out of that self-doubt, and you see them being depressed, or they stop their growth mindset there. So what I have understood right now, and the strategy that what I do is, I have collected an understanding of who I am and what I am, and deep dived into how I do in what I do. So that is a personal perspective of mine. This is Sadhiya Shiraj. She is good in so and so things. These are her strengths and weaknesses. But that's not there. I have also collected the feedback from my closest friends and family members, because they know how I react to different societies and different opportunities and different obstacles. So I collect their feedback, and putting all this together, this is the Sadhiya Shiraj that I know and that the world knows. So that's one phase. Now I have this growth mindset and the fields that I would want to grow. So what I do is I charter out where I want to grow in the next 3 years. I would then create this ideal version of Sadhiya who needs to be there at the end of the 3rd year. And I keep a timeline, at the end of 3rd year or the 5th year, this is ideal Sadhiya that she needs to be. Once I create that person, that profile or the persona of who that Sadhiya should be after 5 years, I then go and use the power of connecting, networking, as to what Ruha, Khadija ma'am and Muhammad Ali sir, everyone mentioned, the power of networking. I then go and connect, I go search LinkedIn, I go meet different people in different cohorts, I interact with people, and I try to find that ideal Sadhiyas, a little similar versions in different people. It can be a man, a woman, anyone, but I try to find people from there. And once I find these people, I then use my power of connecting with, to link with them. So I email them, or I reach out to them, or I find people to whom I can reach out to them. And then I talk to them. I understand their journey, how they became who they are right now. What are the different obstacles that they faced? How were choices very easy for them? Was it very difficult for them financially, or did they face any challenges by other society? What were the difficulties that they had to face, by learning new things? So I create a chart of, what are the different journeys taken by all these people. And once I have so many stories with me, then to chart out my journey becomes way, way, way easier, because now I know, okay, this is how I can reach the person that I actually want to be in this field. These are the different journeys available. Which journey will suit me best is what I can adopt. I can tweak it to my preferences, and then it helps my growing be very, very easy. So I've always used this, and I'm still using this. And I think as long as I have this skill set in me, I'll keep growing, inshallah, all the time.
Thank you for sharing, Sadhiya. I just want to bring it to highlight to our audience that when you see women like Ruha and Sadhiya who are doing amazing, to not just intuitively think that they're there just because they're in such a way, but there's so much work that's going on in the background. They are putting in the time, they're putting in the effort to not just connect, but be reflective about who they are, who they want to be, and how do they get there. So do start thinking about how is it that you want to move ahead, where is it that you want to go, and how can people around you help you in that journey. So it is about structures. It is not just all magic that's working around people. Just be reminded that you need to put the hard work in. Thank you, Sadhiya, for sharing that useful tip. Now, I want to come back to Ruha and talk about the highlight event that the PM Foundation Fellows can start applying to. Ruha has been really kind enough, like she said, to extend the deadline just for the PM Foundation Fellows. So Ruha, could you tell us about the accelerator program? What are the aims of it? What can someone who enrolls and is participating in it can expect from the program?
Sure. So the Accelerator program is a 12-month program, at the end of which you also receive a diploma, and it runs in monthly sessions with a cohort of 50 young Indian Muslim women. And what happens in each of these sessions that you have every month are a series of workshops. And how are these workshops structured? These workshops are structured along 3 themes. So the first theme is to be able to identify and grab opportunities. So this really hits home on the reaching out to people on LinkedIn, networking. The second part is, once you've reached out for those opportunities, how do you convert them into, say, jobs or internships? So this is about getting the interviews done right. And how are you when you're actually talking to the recruiter? So it's a lot about communication over there. And now the third theme is, you've reached out for opportunities, you've gotten your interviews, you've gotten the job. How do you now excel at the job? And this is to what Sadhiya was talking about, a lot of reflection that we do over here. A lot of going to the balcony, seeing how your life is playing out, thinking in a more structured fashion, making sure that you are very intentional with what you are doing. So these are the 3 themes along which the workshops happen. The workshops are very intense for the day that they happen, and this pre-work that's happening. So that's the main chunk of the Accelerator program. You also have access to all the senior women executives that the fellows have access to through the fellowship program. So you can have your office hours with them. You get office hours with the Ledby team who help you fix your resume, edit your resume, update your cover letter, and provide any other support and coaching that you need as well. And the third part becomes, apart from the workshop and these office hours, is you do become a lifelong member of Ledby. So although we use the word alum, we actually just imagine you to be a Ledby fellow or a Ledby member since the day you get accepted into the foundation. The idea of the accelerator program being only once a month is we want it to be more accessible to people regardless of the workload that's happening. And we also want to be cognizant of just how hard COVID has been on all of us. So as we're coming back out of COVID and we're figuring out our life, we're trying to overcome the stunting that most of us have gone through over the past year, professionally, emotionally. The accelerator program is a way to kind of kickstart that, is a way to kind of break out of the rut that COVID has forced so many of us into. So by making it once a month, we don't want it to be too intensive. We imagine all the pre-work, the office hours, the coaching, and the session including is no more than 8 to 10 hours in a month for you. And the idea is that we are giving a leg up to everybody, especially after the year and a half of COVID. So the accelerator programs applications are live only for the PM Foundation right now. They can be, okay, Khadija ma'am, thank you for putting that in the chat box. I wonder if that's visible to everybody. If not, we will share it through other means. So the application process is live. It will be a 2-round application process. A thing that's really important to Ledby is we are very, very, very big on feedback. So everybody who even applies for our programs, regardless of the eventual result, does get feedback on their application essays. And the idea over here is that very core to what we are at the foundation is every time somebody interacts with us, we want them to go away with 2 things. One is to feel heard and acknowledged, and the other is to go back with some amount of growth. So the heard and acknowledged is you applying to us and we acknowledging receipt of that. And the growth part is us providing feedback. So we did that even for the fellowship program this year. We received 1,200 applications and every single person was given an option to get personalized feedback on their essays. So that's the accelerator program. The applications are live only for a couple of more days, exclusively for the PM Foundation. The first round of application should take no more than 15 minutes, including reflection time to fill out.
Thank you, Ruha. I just want to remind our audience about Ruha, sharing that, even providing that feedback, it is because they understand that 1, feedback is important, and 2, not everybody will be accepted just because of the scale of population that we have in this country. So not everybody is going to, who's applying will get into it. But at the same time, to remember what Sadhiya said about growth mindset, to even apply, to just go ahead, give it a shot and see if that's something that will work out for you. If it doesn't, the organization is still around to give you feedback. And I think Ruha will later also share with us how they can, how each of you can be in touch with the organization and the work that they are doing. Ruha, could you be a little more specific in terms of who can apply? In terms.
Sorry to interrupt just there. I just want to make a small clarification because we have, I think Ruha said PM fellows. In the audience, we have more than PM fellows, right? So anybody who's been associated with PM Foundation who meets the criteria for the accelerator program. I hope that's what Ruha meant as well, because we have our fellows are currently being mentored by PM Foundation, but going forward, of course, we do have the Centers of Excellence students as well as the PM fellows who are based in the GCC and awardees from previous years who are in the audience. So I encourage everybody to make use of this opportunity. And I really want to say thank you to Ruha for extending it for PM Foundation. Yeah, thank you. Absolutely. Sorry to interrupt, Sadhiya. Yeah.
No problem. Thank you for clarifying that and bringing that. I mean, I'm sure, I hope Ruha, it's open for everybody to apply as well at this point. Great. So I just want more specific clarity in terms of who can apply, in terms of if there's an age bar, if there is any background basic requirement for who can apply, or what stage in their professional or educational level are they in, who can apply for the accelerator program, and who will it benefit the most?
Yeah, so the accelerator program is meant for Indian Muslim women who are in the age group between 18 to 30. It's entirely virtual, and people who benefit most from it are folks who are looking to improve their communication skills and their ability to reach out to people. We have the program's details written on the website. We are also big oversharers of information. And that's something we've been working on since, well, Sadhiya had first seen the website. I remember Sadhiya also messaging sometime later last year saying that the website's grown so much and it's so different than how it was. So yeah, we are a work in progress, and we're big on feedback and iteration. And because of that, the details of the accelerator program can be found on the website. But the summary eligibility criteria is Indian Muslim women within the age group of 18 to 30 years of age.
Great. Thanks, Ruha. So we're going to come to a close of our conversation and move on to the Q&A section. We have a couple of questions here. I believe this is for Ruha. The questions from Ehab Sharif says, in the vision to empower Indian women, one of the factors that might make empowerment elusive is a casual attitude of happy-go-lucky among Indian women and the fear of being rebuked by the dominating patriarchal society. How do you combat this? I think probably you could answer it in terms of the lens of you as an Indian Muslim woman who is a founder and a leader, but also maybe I'm not sure if the person wants to know about how you deal with it in your personal life as well.
Can you do me a favor? Can you text that to me on the chat box?
Sure. I will.
I'm trying to understand the happy-go-lucky part. I can see Khadija ma'am laughing. She's also thinking of that.
I think
okay,
it is
about again for everyone. Sure. As well. Thanks, Sapna, for sending it across. So the question is, in the vision to empower Indian women, one of the factors that might make empowerment elusive is the casual attitude of happy-go-lucky among Indian women and the fear of being rebuked by the dominating patriarchal society. How do you combat this? So I'm going to make a couple of assumptions on what this question means. And to the person who asked this question, if I get it wrong, please feel free to message us. So my understanding is that, not going too literally into what was written and the phrases used, but it's that women perhaps are not taking up the mantle or taking up space because they're afraid of the existing patriarchal structures and the backlash that might come in from within the family, within the community, within the nation at large. So that's my understanding of the question. Sapna, do you think that's valid?
Yeah, I think that's what I understand as well. I hope that's what Ehab has meant.
Yeah, so how do we go about combating this? How do you go about combating the fear that women face or feel because of structures that have only been too visible to us from day zero? Within Ledby, the purpose of creating a tribe, I think fundamentally, why are we creating a group of people who have these three identities together, right? These are Indian Muslim women. And the reason we created this target group and this group of X number of identities together is that they do face similar challenges. And the strength of having these women come together and say and discuss issues and realize that they face similar problems and can use their collective wisdom to find solutions to that is one way that we are countering this, right? To recognize that the problem that you're facing, the systemic patriarchy that you're facing, is not just your struggle alone. Finding strength through conversations with other people going through the same thing is a possible solution that we've seen happen as well. So that's one way that we're going through this. It definitely isn't easy, but it's also encouraging in terms of it helps a lot of women also recognize that ABC is a problem and it can be fought, or it can be overcome rather. Yes, all right. We can move on to the next question.
Yeah, I think that's what Ehab had meant. And thank you for that response. Ruha, I want to understand there's a question on in terms of this. I think this is from a young student, is about in terms of what is it that they can do right now if they're in school or I think college, in terms of starting to take a direction in what they want to do in their life ahead professionally. So what can that person do next to move ahead?
Okay.
I think The question is in regard to, I think, how do I know what is the best path for me to move ahead if I don't have clarity on what educational or professional space that I want to move on to?
Yeah, that's a good question. And the first thing I want to say is that that's such a common question as well. Like it's a lot of people's lived reality is not really knowing what we want. Making a decision of which subject to choose when you're 14, 15 years old is so unjust and kind of hard. Some people have it easy and know exactly what they want, but I would say most don't. Sadhiya, please feel free to chime in if you want to add to any of this. According, like my 2 cents on this would be, if you're not entirely sure, again, reading people's profiles, learning what other people are doing, diving into some broad themes that interest you. Suppose coding or AI, machine learning interests you, just go start reading about that. Find a recent newspaper article that was written, figure out what's happening there. From there, you can start maybe looking at who the author of the article is, read up about them, find out about a couple of universities that are mentioned in the article, and see maybe if they have programs that interest you. So build on that line of research to figure out what you want. None of this will come to you one fine day when you're eating Rajma Chawal. Like, this requires painful amount of reflection, by the way. And thanks, Sapna, for highlighting that from what Sadhiya was talking about. There is a lot of structured thinking, a lot of reflection that goes behind our journeys, and things are very, very intentionally done. And it is not an easy process. Absolutely not. And our education system does not give us the space for reflection. Our homework is usually, and for good measure, right, like technical stuff, and that makes us technically brilliant. But is that enough? It is not. Which is why Sadhiya will also concur to this, is the work that we do at Ledby, the work that we ask of professors is not answer question A, B, C or solve a problem. It's really about, how did you feel after this session? What were your takeaways? There's no right or wrong. All we want you to do is take a step back and reflect on things. So reflect on what you want, reflect on what interests you, reflect on whose story sounded interesting to you, right? Think of who are the people that you admire, and then figure out what they're doing. You admire them for a reason, and maybe it is their journey and their expertise that is an area of your interest. But I would love to share the floor with Sadhiya if you want to share anything of this as well.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ruha. I would like to mention 2 things for this. Firstly, it's okay to take wrong decisions, because no one, not even we ourselves, are aware as to what we want tomorrow. That constantly changes according to which society you are and what new things you have seen. I mean, 10 years down the line, I wanted to be a cardiologist. When I was in class 12, the only 2 things a girl from Kerala either does is apply for medicine or go for engineering. I mean, this is 12 years before. So I went for engineering because there was a change in decision. When I went to engineering, I understood this is not what I wanted to do. So I applied for MBA. When I went for MBA, I took majors in finance, wherein I have not touched any commerce subjects for the last 10 years. And now I am analyzing finance of one of the largest companies in the world. And I still don't know if this is what I want to do. So there is this question of, am I taking the right decision or not the right decision, that constantly keeps evolving. But more importantly, it is the guidance that is important when you take a right decision. When we were young, when I was young, 12 years ago, internet itself was not very common. And in the Middle East, there was very little usage of WhatsApp and Facebook back then. I mean, internet was not so rampant. For us to get hold of right connections and, the right cohort groups, say the PM Foundation or the Ledby Foundation, was not very easy. So to get guidance was also very difficult. But right now, the situation is very different for all the youngsters out there. If you are in college, or, even if you've left college and you're a 30-year-old woman aspiring just to grow, the enormous opportunity you have to connect to the people who you aspire to be is just enough for you to take a decision. If that's just enough. Just connect with them, know their story, and then connect. Telling the second part of the answer, what I wanted to say, I recently met a young boy. He is from Arikode, and Arikode is a small place in the Malappuram district of the north of Kerala. If I had met him 4 years down the line, I would have classified him as a person, who does not have any ambition to grow. And he is just another boy who just goes for college for no particular reason, comes back home, watches football, and then sleeps, had zero ambition. And he was doing BA in literature. I mean, he was doing bachelor's in literature in a very not so renowned college in Arikod. But there was just one professor who guided him, saying that, look, Mr. XYZ, I see potential in you. And he's not had any leadership qualities back then, okay? And I see potential in you. I suggest that you go for master's to one of the best institutes in the country. The teacher just guided him that much, and that was it. He went on to complete his master's from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. Then he went to Chicago University, did his PhD from there, and he came back from the States, and now he's attempting for UPSC, and he's got the final call for personality interview. So that was the effect of guidance somebody had, when you're talking to. When he was doing BA in literature back then, he never had thought that, he would want to do bachelor's and master's in social work and then maybe apply for the UPSC exam. But when you have the right people to connect to, you have the right people to who you can guide, so that, even though you can't see your own potential, they will help you make the right decision. And maybe, inshallah, the decision would be right. It might make you happy. And if at all, like I mentioned earlier, even if your decision is wrong, it's okay. You can always start again, take another new decision, and then, continue to be unhappy.
I just want to come in, if it's okay. The reason is, I think Ruha said a very important point, and Shadhiya also built on it. There is an opportunity now like never before that is available, and that is the innumerable platforms for one to be seen and to be heard. And I think the only hindrance that a woman faces, or I should say anybody faces, is the question of self-doubt. Can I go on that stage and speak and be seen? Do I have the courage to go out and send that email? Do I have the what would happen if I don't get a response? So I just want to say thank you for bringing that point up. It's very important that we realize that, one, we have the opportunities available to us. What's stopping us from doing that? That's a question I would like to actually also ask. It's, in my mind, it is self-doubt. It could also be a question of access. Like today's event, for example, we are ensuring that it is going to be available on YouTube and so that more people can view it and access it. But the point that I want to say is, the question I want to ask is, what stops people from taking these steps today when there is so many opportunities available? Previously, it was a case of not having opportunities or not having the awareness. Any thoughts on that, if I may ask?
Sadhiya, do you want to go ahead?
I would like to just give a small, story for this. When I was in school, there was no limit to opportunities. You can participate in everything and anything. When I came to National Institute of Technology, Calicut in Kerala, that's when I started understanding, okay, opportunities are accessible to few people. It could be because you're from a particular gender or from a particular community or a society. When I went to IIM Lucknow, I was the only Muslim Malayali girl in the whole campus of 400 plus people. So that was the power of my representation. Now, when ma'am talks about opportunities which are given, but what stops us from taking those opportunities? Some people are confident and strong enough, they are okay falling down innumerable times, and they will still have the energy to stand up and then go ahead and and grab those opportunities. But most of the women are huddled up in this farce environment. They are not good enough for that, or they have the self-doubt, they're not strong enough for that, or they don't have the intellect for that, or even if they have the intellect, they are scared of failing. If they will make a mistake, or I do up this activity, but what if it goes wrong? That doubt of that final result is what's stopping them from doing it. But it's very difficult for a person to come out of this on its own. And I think that's where this cohorts and communities and tribe like this is very important. You need to support people. You need to support people who are elder to you. You need to support people who are along with you and younger to you. I mean, I'm still constantly inspiring my mom that, do up this, do that, do this, because it's important for her to grow too. I'm telling my sister as well as I'm telling my juniors. It's very difficult for them to get that strength all alone because there has been decades of social injustices that they were faced to, and it's become the norm that it's okay for not being ambitious, or it's okay for not taking up that opportunity. For them to come out of that mindset, to have the power to go and grab that opportunity is not very easy because of the lack of inner strength, and that inner strength can be imbibed either individually or through a tribe or a community. So I think more than access, it is the deep diving strength of these cohorts and communities that is very important. Let the access be there, but we need to have a set of people who will tell that XYZ person that, you can go and write an email for this particular opportunity, or, you can go and send out a message to this particular XYZ, and we teach them or we guide them and we push them. Okay, just go do it. We'll wait and see what happens to the result. But that support is what I think is more important than just the mere information that this particular thing is available.
Sapna, can I ask a question here? Hello, I'm Mohammed Hanish here.
Yes,
Okay.
please go ahead, sir.
All right. So Sadhiya, I have been listening to your wonderful, brilliant articulation and the way in which you have been so disarming clarity with which most of these ideas have been put up. Absolutely strung together in a gem of kind of a string of, gems, all together. So just two questions from my side. Question number one, what is the central quality that, or the critical quality that you have to have if you are to be a top class professional? And the question number two is, what are the attributes that you would have to have if you have to balance between your professional life and family life? Thank you.
Sir, both these questions are directed to me. Okay, sir, thank you so much for asking these questions. Firstly, if I have to talk about myself alone, what is the most important quality so as to excel as an executive or as a professional out there? I think it is the ability to listen to others. Because that is really very important. You may have the ambition to grow, you may have the power to connect with people, but it is very important for you to listen with the people who you're connecting to, listen to the opportunities that you're applying to, listen to the people who are not so fortunate to you. Because the more you listen, I'm not talking about hearing, but listening, because listening is hearing plus understanding and taking a decision based on that. So I think listening is something which is really very important. The more you keep listening, I think that's more, you will be able to grow as a professional. About the second question, how do you balance your personal life and your professional life? So I would like to bring this out in the audience. I'm also a married woman. I have been married for the last 3.5 years. And the decision for me to take MBA after my bachelor's was after my marriage. All the strength and support. And now I am working. I'm a working woman also, that also after my marriage. And my husband is also a fellow IAS officer working in the Maharashtra cadre. So the decisions that a woman takes when she is married or for her to have a work-life balance is not very easy if she's going to do all this by alone, because you're not going to live in an environment all by yourself. You need to have the support of your family. You need to have the support of the colleagues with whom you're working. You need to have the support of the different cohorts of which you are part of. So I think the support is what is helping me chart out my work-life balance. I have days wherein I work till night 12 a.m. and then I have to start the next day again at 7 a.m. But to bring out that balance, both emotionally, physically, and work mentally, is only because of the support that I am getting, both in my personal life as well as work life. So that with that support, I chart out, how my balance should be. And accordingly, I prioritize. There would be days or months where I have to focus a little more on my work. There would be days or months when I have to focus a little more on my academics. But that also means that there will be nights when I have to spend more time for my family, because you don't grow alone. You grow academically, you grow emotionally, you grow financially. And when you grow, I believe the society also grows together.
Wonderful answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that question, sir, and thank you, Sadhiya, for beautifully conveying to that question. I want to just highlight here again about the term growth mindset, and request our audience to go back and look at that And because we were talking about professional life and even otherwise, how do you grow and how do you look forward to moving from where you are? How do you take that step? It is about being willing to fail as well. So go ahead and look at what growth mindset means. Ruha, I have a question here for you, and this is in terms of your experience while you were at Harvard. So you were doing a full-time 2-year master's program. You were working with Yale. You were starting up an organization on your own, and all of this were happening at the same time. And you also excelling in each of these. So what are a few things that you could tell our audience here in juggling these different roles? But basically, how has it helped you? What has helped you being so successful and disciplined in what you do? If you could give them some tips and practically what you do on your regular basis, that will help them as well work in their academic and professional life.
Sure. I think I found the vocabulary which to an extent defines the way I look at life and the way I look at my work, which is grit. Grit is passion and perseverance. An unpleasant way of saying grit could also be stubborn. I can pinpoint to you the moment where I felt that I was usurped by grit. I was really young. I was 6 years old. I distinctly remember there was a dinner party going on at home. And this 6-year-old Ruha is talking to an uncle. And this uncle asks me, Ruha, what do you want or what do you wish for when you grow up? I have no idea why, as a 6-year-old, I chose an answer which sounded like I was standing on the stage of a Miss World competition or something, because I said, world peace. And this uncle laughed at me. And when he laughed, I didn't think he was laughing at my answer because I was genuine about my answer. I thought he was laughing at my aspirations. And it was at that moment that I told myself, I'm going to make it happen. And world peace was basically me saying social impact, positive change is what I wanted to do. And just following through that grit has been what's kept me going. Another little saying that I heard which irked me, it said, the saying I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with, it says, you can be anything you wish to be, you can't be everything you wish to be. Which is a pity because you get one life, right? And there are trade-offs that you need to make. But I do believe there is a lot that we can achieve, a lot of aspects of our interests that we can deep dive into. So doing that is what has led to, say, the Harvard experience that I had that Sapna narrated. So I was incubating Ledby, I was attending classes, I was working at Yale. I was also leading the India conference at Harvard, which is another mammoth exercise altogether. But the reason I was able to do all of this was these were things that I was incredibly passionate about. Now, coming to the point of there are tips and tricks, I think what helps me is I time box everything. So if you look at my Google Calendar, you will not find any space between my day because everything is time boxed, which is why even Khadija ma'am will tell you that I was obsessively asking about the duration of this talk to figure out and plan my day, which is usually how it goes. So this idea of time box, by the way, again, is a word that I only very recently realized. And I find this happening to me very often, which is I'll have mechanisms in play, and then I will read an organizational psychology essay and be like, oh, wait, that's what this is called. I've already been doing this. So that's what time box is. And even the growth mindset conversation that we're having, I just put into the chat box the name of a book on growth mindset that helped me find a lot of vocabulary. It's a very easy read, and it's a short book by Carol Dweck. So I highly encourage you to read that for growth mindset. If there's one takeaway from this chat, I would say get yourself that book. So the other piece that I wanted to talk to you was time boxing. Now, time boxing is very simple. We all remember the timetable, the schedule that we got in school. It's basically taking that and carrying forward with that, except you create your own timetable. So a proper timetable, for instance, suppose you have an assignment to submit, right? Block your calendar for 2 hours saying, I am going to, for these 2 hours, work on my assignment. And the idea is over here that it creates a very finite space-time coordinate that you have to achieve a goal. And these aren't long things, like you don't block a week for doing something. Block it in only 1 to maybe 3 hours max. And I think, Sapna, like that was something that helped me a lot when I'm juggling multiple things. It's really about what we call time management and to be able to allocate your particular hours in a day. There are some trade-offs. For instance, I love talking to people. My work is all about people, whether as a doctor or at Ledby. But I have to make the trade-off of going out for social dinners or parties. I've often find myself by the end of the day or by the end of the week, I just want alone time where I want to watch some really bad show on Netflix and eat a tub of ice cream, which means like fewer night outs with my friends. So I'm not like the most social person when it comes to dinner party scenes, but that's my little trade-off that I have to make to be able to achieve all the other things that I want to do. So those are a couple of nuggets that work for me.
Thanks, Ruha. I'm sure people can start working on their own time boxes. Ruha, one quick question about the application itself for the fellowship and the accelerator. I think this is specifically about the Ledby fellowship. So out of 1,200 applications, only a handful are chosen. Just wanted to know what kind of profile are you looking for in a fellow?
There's no profile. So even Sadhiya will be a testament to that. We are very intentional about the diversity. So Sadhiya comes from an engineering MBA background. We had somebody who was a water conservationist enthusiast, somebody who was a heritage enthusiast, somebody whose dream job is to be a UI UX designer for a gaming company. So and some people who had no idea what they wanted, by the way. That's one of our funnest stories, is a co-fellow of Sadhiya. When she joined Ledby, she was really confused, didn't really know what she wanted to do. She was very young, was just finishing her 3-year program from Aligarh. And she figured out her pathway by talking to people, by talking to her peers during the fellowship, by talking to senior executives. And we helped her out with her application process for a master's in public policy, which is what she decided she wanted to kind of do. She used her negotiation skills also with the university, and right now is the recipient of a master's in public policy admissions from a top 10 global school, which is the Lee Kuan Yew School in Singapore, and has received a full scholarship with a monthly stipend. But her profile in the beginning was she really did not know what she wanted to do. So we look at a blend of 6 things apart from the diversity thing. So we're very intentional about having people from across India, having people from STEM, non-STEM backgrounds, having people from different classes, different castes, and having people even from different levels of religiosity, right? Some people who only are culturally Muslim, some people who are highly religious. So making sure there's that entire blend. But the traits that we're looking at, I wouldn't say profile, the traits that we're looking at is a blend of aptitude, ambition, aspirations in varying level. But at the same time, we are not looking for somebody who has it all. We're looking for people who do need support. So people who could benefit from more agency, people who could benefit from having more avenues, people who could benefit from having more access. So there's a very complex metrics system that we have in place for identifying the perfect profile. My humble submission would be that even the application process is designed in a place for you to be a learning experience. So the questions that we've put forward will force you to take out at least 15 minutes to reflect. And that is a way of us being able to give you a learning opportunity even through the application process. So there is a benefit in even just applying. And for the rest, for the selection criteria, I've shared with you what we're looking for. The website has more, but I would urge you to still go ahead and apply because that's a learning experience in itself. And please don't discount yourself. I think that's one of the biggest issues we do as females, like a disservice to ourselves, is we put ourselves out of the race. We're usually not even in the running. So let the recruitment team handle that. You just throw in your hat into the ring, you fill out that application form, and we do the rest.
Sapna, if I just had to add in, during my application process for the Ledby, I had mentioned in the first initial submission that I like to read. And secondly, I then received a form from the Ledby team saying that which author is your favorite and why. I just have to write an article on that and submit it to them. It was then I realized that I had to justify what I liked. Earlier you just say that I like something, so I like something. Now I had to justify it out there to a person so that she or she would like me on that basis and take me into a cohort group. And I started writing about Jane Austen. And that's when I actually understood, whenever you apply for any such programs or admissions, or even be it for an admission process into the Harvard or Oxford, you have to be as honest as possible. Bring out your true self in words and have multiple corrections to it, keep editing over and over again, but bring out your true self. If you can put yourself into words, then the person who's reading knows that, you have a clear idea of who you are and where you want to be. Then it's easier for them to take you into that particular process. And if you're a pretty sorted out person, then there is very little help that you need to give to that person. But if it's a person who's very confused and who needs a lot of help, then that's where these cohort groups and everyone help you, so that, they take you, they refine you, and they make you into something better that you never realized that you could ever be. So, deep dive into yourself and put yourself into words. I think that is the easiest way of getting admitted into all these best top colleges and cohorts.
Yeah. And they're looking for even beyond Ledby. So piggybacking off of what Sadhiya was saying, it's not about you being good enough. It's about you being a good fit. And this change in mentality, when you start thinking and seeing those rejection emails not as, oh, I'm not good enough, it's just that we're not a good fit. Sadhiya, Sapna, if you see our email inboxes, you will see for every positive line that we have on our LinkedIn profile, we probably have 100 rejection emails easily. And you don't see us feeling bad about that, because we understand that the cliche of every failure is a step towards success is very, very true. And the other thing is, it's also just about being a good fit, right? If right now I was to apply for a NASA engineer role, like I wouldn't get it because I'm not a good fit. Similarly, for our cohort, somebody who has everything sorted for them will not be a good fit, right? We won't be able to bring too much value to them, vice versa. So think about applications and reaching out for opportunities more in the terms of, are we a good fit versus am I good enough?
Thanks, Ruha. I think that's very important to highlight. So we're almost at the end of our conversation. Before, I have one more question, but I'd like to understand from Khadija ma'am and Chairman or anybody at the PM team if they have any particular question before I close in with one last question and few thoughts. Okay, I see Khadija ma'am saying no more questions. By the way, we have a lot of appreciation from our audience saying that this is great. This is a great conversation. We also have Mrs. Papri ma'am congratulating Sadhiya and just happy seeing her here. So thank you, ma'am, for sharing that. My one last question is, we've spoken a lot about achieving, or we've talked about being proactive, and we see someone like Sadhiya as well, who's a natural leader. I want to have a few lines from Ruha and probably Sadhiya as well in terms of what about a lot of people who may not be actively leaders in the space that they are, or who are not naturally confident to reach out, who are not confident to speak up. What can we suggest for those who need that extra push and on how to go about this? I know we've spoken about growth mindset, but even if it is to elaborate on that, just to confirm that it is not just people who are born leaders or who are very confident from the beginning, but it is anybody really who can pick up and do what they want to and excel in what they want to do.
Oh, that reminds me of my school. So unlike Sadhiya, my middle school, I remember I was actually very quiet. Even in primary school, my parents tell me that I was a very, very quiet person, and I don't understand why, because I don't feel like a quiet person. And I think it wasn't an intrinsic thing. I think for me, it was the environment that I was in. I think I was in an environment that was not necessarily conducive to thriving and wasn't created in a way to be able to understand my personality, to help me understand and absorb content and curriculum of studying. So it took a while. I think it was really in college when I felt like, okay, I feel confident. I'm in medical school. This was my dream since forever. So there was this random burst of confidence that came in, and then I honed that into a couple of entrepreneurial projects while I was in medical school, as well as just studying to becoming a doctor. But for people who really, really feel or find it difficult to be able to reach out to people or talk or take up space, Well, two things. One is you have to get out of your comfort zone. It is not easy. And it gets easier later on, but it's never like super easy. So understand that, right? We all have to push out of our comfort zone. So if you're not being challenged, you're probably not doing it right. And that's also usually a rule of thumb, by the way, that I use. If I have to make a decision, I quickly ask myself, am I saying no because maybe I'm afraid? And if the answer is yes, then I'm like, okay, I need to do this now. Like, clearly, I'm just saying no because I'm scared. And this happens. This happens often. This also sometimes happens when I'm like supposed to go out for events, and I'm like, oh, I don't feel like going out because I have work to do. And then I'm like, do I have work to do, or am I just not interested or lazy? And I often find that the reason is I want to do Netflix and ice cream instead. So push yourself out of your comfort zone, and that can mean different things for different people. The second thing is, if you are feeling underconfident, if you're not comfortable talking to people, find alternative media to reach out to people, right? So maybe you recognize that you're not comfortable picking up the phone and talking to people. You're not comfortable in person. You're not comfortable on Zoom. But maybe you're comfortable when you have to write emails, right? So maybe reach out to people through the written word instead. So find a medium that works for you. And there are multiple medium that you can use. So find a medium, but do recognize it's not comfortable. It's not going to be supernatural. Supernatural is the opposite of what I'm trying to say. It's not going to be very natural to you, but you need to push yourself a little bit. But find something that works for you.
Thanks, Ruha. I think the reason that I brought up is also because I know there are people like you and probably me as well. I found it difficult to speak when there are two other people in the room, and it's been a struggle for me to start putting work in. And I'm sure there are a lot of our students and audience watching who also need that extra motivation to just step out of that comfort zone. So before we really eat into Ruha's time box, I think we need to close this session now. And I just want to close with firstly telling about all the good words that our audience is saying. Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Harris, for saying that. Fatima has also gone to say that she's never been inspired this much for a few years now, having heard Ruha and Sadhiya talk about your experience. We have Javad appreciating the conversation. Thank you, audience, for interacting and sharing your thoughts as well. So while we close, I want us to just remember specifically 3 things from this conversation. Is about reflecting. If you are a young person or if you're anybody, reflect on where you are and what are your strengths, who are you, and where do you want to go, and plan ahead for that. Without reflection, there is no magic that's going to work out. You have to put in the hard work. The other thing is growth mindset, to understand that people are in a way are not set in a particular way. There's always something that you can do about who you are and where you are. Growth mindset is a muscle that you can build by actively just pursuing things that are not very comfortable for you, being willing to fail and being accepting of rejections. So growth mindset is something we'd like you to think about. And thirdly, and very importantly, network. Build your tribe, build the mentors for you, even if it's acquaintances. Converse and talk to, reach out to people, be it through LinkedIn. LinkedIn is an excellent tool. So use LinkedIn, email, any opportunity that's available for you. And you can start building your network even before you know exactly what you need, but start having conversations with people who are different or who are in a path that you want to be in. So with that, I'd like to hand over this conversation to Khadija ma'am, while thanking Sadhiya and Ruha for their time. Thank you so much. I've enjoyed this conversation, and I'll stop before I go any longer. Thank you, everybody. Khadija ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Sapna. And I just want to close this event.
Sure.
Our chairman is here. May I just wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to the 3 of you.
Small point here, can I?
Yes, please, sir. Please,
yeah.
Sir.
In fact, I was so absolutely engrossed in the kind of, the conversation that was going on between absolutely graceful, 3 graceful and ladies over here. Brilliant, absolutely well endowed with knowledge, a great deal of passion for their work, and the kind of commitment that they have for the betterment of the universe. These are things, which are absolutely lacking in the present times. In this 21st century, we have all become automated machines. And the ultimate thing is that with all this kind of online classes and, kind of meetings that are going on, cervical spondylosis is on the increase. This is what's happening. Too much of pain on the back as well. And we bureaucrats often say that from head till their back. It's almost gone in the last 1 year. But anyway, wonderful listening to all of you. In fact, we had an absolutely dedicated group as well, listening to the whole deliberations over here. You are the kind of lodestars who could certainly transform the way we look at education, we look at future prospects, and also for the realization of our dreams. I'm so happy about it. In fact, we need to carry forth this message. As I also happened to read Sadhiya's, message in the PM Foundation group that she would like to associate with the PM Foundation in all its initiatives. Welcome. As Khadija stated, we could have a discussion also immediately after this. Okay. And Dr. Ruha, in fact, the kind of accomplishments you have had, it speaks, million words about the kind of advancements, the kind of, the progress in, the progressive strides that have been made. And Sapna, of course, I have been hearing a lot about you all these days, thanks to Khadija as well. And there are so many things which we'd like to have in common. Thank you very much for everything. Carry on, Khadija. Thanks a lot for this wonderful session.
Sure. I'm actually at a loss for words because whatever has to be said has been said by very articulate speakers of the day. And I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to each one of you. Sapna, for your very articulate reflections, and for conducting this interview. You put in a lot of thought and effort into it. Dr. Ruha, for the inspiring work that you're doing and for reaching out to us and for extending the deadline for PM Foundation. We truly appreciate it, and you've created a new paradigm for what a mentorship program looks like, what leadership and entrepreneurship can look like. We wish you all the very best in the endeavor that's going forward. You've inspired a lot of women today, a lot of people today. I see positive responses coming in from both men and women in the audience. And like I said, this is going to be available online. We have had people joining in from different parts of the world. By the way, I didn't mention this, and Ruha is actually in Seattle. It's past midnight over there, and she has stayed with us over 2 days, technically. Thank you, Ruha, for
Brilliant. Extraordinary. That's the way American dreams are created, I understand.
No,
and by the way, just wanted to add that from a PM Foundation's viewpoint, we have had the continuous presence of two other important persons from our PM Foundation fold. Dr. N.M. Sharafuddin, our trustee, has always been an avid listener, participant. He has been present all through these deliberations today. And the live wire of our PM Foundation Nodal Center and the person who coordinates everything, Mrs. Saira Banu, has always been the leading for the front. Thank you very much to both of them. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you, Sadhiya, for joining us too. As what has been said, I hope that this interaction helps those who have been participating and those who will view it in the future to go after their dreams, and that you have planted something very beautiful and precious here for the future. God bless you all. And we hope that we can continue the association in the future as well. Thank you once again. And on behalf of PM Foundation, I thank everybody in the audience. I thank the team, Saira Banu, ma'am, who's our Nodal Center Coordinator, Mohit, who's been the handling the scene backstage, and all the trustees, N.M. Sharafuddin Sahib, who's also present with us today. Thank you once again, and see you all next time for our next session.
And Khadija, one sec. Do we have a discussion with the?
Yeah, we can. I'll schedule that later.
Sure.
After the session.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Bye-bye. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much. Khudafis.
Thank you, Khadija ma'am. Thank you, everyone.